Hello guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to explain how memory works inside the ESP32, including IRAM, DRAM, flash memory, the IRAM_ATTR, and DRAM_ATTR attributes, and external PSRAM. When developing on ESP32, we usually work with several different memory regions, and each one has a different purpose. IRAM stands for Instruction RAM. This is internal RAM, mainly used for executable code that needs very fast and predictable access. Interrupt service routines and other timing critical functions are typical candidates for IRAM. DRAM stands for Data RAM. This is where runtime data normally lives. Global variables, task stacks, heap allocations, buffers, counters, and other changing data are normally stored here. Flash memory is non-volatile. Your main firmware is stored in external flash, together with constant data, application partitions, OTA images, NVS, and sometimes file systems such as fs. Finally, PSRAM is external RAM used when the internal ESP32 memory is not large enough. It is very useful for camera frame buffers, audio buffers, large JSON structures, graphics, and machine learning applications. But the important idea is that these memories are not interchangeable. Think of it this way: IRAM is optimized for critical code, DRAM for active data, flash for permanent storage, and PSRAM for large amounts of temporary data. Understanding this memory hierarchy becomes especially important when working with interrupts, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cameras, or applications that require large buffers. Before looking at memory attributes, we first need to clearly understand the difference between IRAM, DRAM, and flash. Most ESP32 application code is stored inside external flash. The processor normally accesses this code through a cache mechanism. This allows us to store relatively large applications without consuming all of the limited internal RAM. However, flash access is not as predictable as accessing internal RAM. IRAM is different. It is internal instruction RAM, meaning functions placed here can execute directly from RAM, without depending on the external flash cache. This is extremely useful for interrupt handlers or very timing-sensitive routines. DRAM, on the other hand, is internal data RAM. Runtime variables, buffers, task stacks, heap allocations, and other frequently changing information normally live here. Another major difference is volatility. Both IRAM and DRAM lose their contents when power is removed. Flash does not. This is why firmware and persistent information can remain stored even when the ESP32 is completely powered off. So the basic rule is straightforward. Use flash for the majority of your application code and persistent storage. Use IRAM only for code that genuinely needs low latency or must remain executable when flash cache is unavailable. And use DRAM for normal runtime data. Later, when we introduce PSRAM, we will see how large buffers can be moved outside internal DRAM to save valuable internal memory. Now let's look more closely at IRAM. IRAM means Instruction RAM. It is internal memory that the processor can use for executing instructions directly. Normally, most ESP32 application functions remain in flash, but sometimes we need a function to execute independently of flash access. A very common example is an interrupt service routine. Imagine that the ESP32 is performing a flash erase or write operation. During certain operations, access to cached flash may temporarily become unavailable. If an interrupt occurs at that exact moment, and the interrupt handler itself depends on flash, the processor may not be able to execute it correctly. This is one of the reasons we use IRAM. By placing a critical function in IRAM, the function remains available even when flash cache access is temporarily restricted. In ESP-IDF, we normally do this using the IRAM_ATTR attribute. For example, a GPIO interrupt handler can be declared with IRAM_ATTR before the function name, but IRAM is limited. You should not place your entire application in IRAM just because it is faster. Instead, reserve it for small interrupt handlers, timing-sensitive callbacks, certain low-level drivers, and routines that must execute safely without flash. Another important rule is that putting the ISR function itself in IRAM is not enough. Everything that the ISR calls and any data it accesses during a cache-disabled situation must also be safe. So IRAM should be treated as a valuable real-time resource, not simply as faster general-purpose memory. Next, let's look at DRAM, or data RAM. While IRAM is primarily associated with executable instructions, DRAM is where most of the ESP32's active application data lives. For example, global variables are normally stored in DRAM when they need to be modified during runtime. Static variables can also live here. Every FreeRTOS task requires a stack, and those stacks normally consume internal RAM. Dynamic memory allocated using functions such as malloc also comes from the available heap regions. Communication buffers, UART buffers, network packets, sensor arrays, counters, state variables, and temporary calculations all consume RAM as well. This means internal DRAM can disappear surprisingly quickly in a complex ESP32 application. Imagine an application using Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, FreeRTOS tasks, a web server, JSON processing, and large communication buffers. Even if the ESP32 has plenty of flash space remaining, it may still run out of internal RAM. This is an important distinction. Flash capacity and RAM capacity solve completely different problems. For small and frequently accessed data, internal RAM is normally ideal because it provides fast access. However, very large buffers, such as camera images, should often be moved into external PSRAM when the hardware supports it. DRAM is also important when working with interrupts. If an interrupt handler must access certain data, while flash cache may be unavailable, the data needs to reside in internal RAM rather than flash. Later we will use DRAM_ATTR to explicitly control that placement. Now let's focus on flash memory. Most ESP32 boards use external SPI flash to store the application firmware. Unlike RAM, flash is non-volatile, meaning its contents remain available after power is removed. A typical ESP32 flash layout contains several partitions. First we have the bootloader, which starts the chip and prepares the system. Then we have the partition table, which describes how the flash address space is organized. After that, we normally have one or more application partitions. For systems supporting OTA firmware updates, you may have OTA_0 and OTA_1 application partitions, so that a new firmware image can be downloaded without immediately destroying the currently working firmware. Flash can also contain NVS, or non-volatile storage, which is commonly used for configuration values, Wi-Fi credentials, calibration information, and device settings. File systems such as SPIFs or little fs can also be stored inside flash. Constant strings and read-only application data are often stored in flash as well, helping reduce internal RAM consumption. But flash has an important limitation. The processor normally accesses external flash through cache. During certain flash operations, that cache can temporarily become unavailable. This becomes critical for interrupts. An interrupt handler that must execute during those conditions should not rely on instructions or important data stored in flash. This is exactly where IRAM_ATTR and DRAM_ATTR become useful. So flash gives us large and persistent storage, but it should not be confused with low latency internal RAM. Now we can understand what IRAM_ATTR actually does. IRAM_ATTR is an ESP-IDF attribute used to place a function into internal instruction RAM instead of leaving it in flash. The most common reason for using it is an interrupt service routine. Consider a GPIO interrupt. The hardware event can happen at almost any time. If the ESP32 is performing a flash write or erase operation, when that interrupt occurs, some flash-based instructions may temporarily be inaccessible. If the interrupt handler is placed in IRAM, the CPU can continue executing that handler without depending on the external flash. This improves reliability and also provides more predictable latency. A typical declaration looks like this: void IRAM_ATTR GPIO_ISR _handler open parenthesis void *arg close parenthesis. But there is an important detail. IRAM_ATTR only guarantees the placement of that particular function. If the ISR calls another function that remains in flash, the system can still have problems. Similarly, using functions such as print inside a critical ISR can be unsafe and also adds significant execution time. A good interrupt handler should therefore be short. Set a flag, increment a counter, notify a task, or place an event into an ISR safe queue. Then let a normal FreeRTOS task perform the heavy processing. You should not automatically add IRAM_ATTR to every function. Internal IRAM is limited, and placing unnecessary code there wastes valuable memory. Use it when the function genuinely requires deterministic, cache-independent execution. DRAM_ATTR performs a similar role to IRAM_ATTR, but for data rather than executable code. Its purpose is to force a variable or constant into internal data RAM. Why would we need this? Imagine we have an interrupt handler correctly placed in IRAM. Inside that ISR, we access a lookup table, a constant string, or some other variable. If that data is actually stored in flash, the ISR still depends on flash access, even though the ISR code itself is in IRAM. During a cache-disabled condition, this can cause problems. This is where DRAM_ATTR becomes useful. For example, an interrupt-related counter or small lookup table can be explicitly placed into internal DRAM. A declaration might look like DRAM_attrvolatile, joint 32_T event_count equals 0. Now both the ISR code and the required data can remain accessible without relying on external flash. However, DRAM_ATTR should not be used for every variable. Internal DRAM is limited and extremely valuable. Placing a large image buffer or several hundred kilobytes of application data into DRAM would quickly consume the available internal memory. Large non-critical buffers usually belong in PSRAM instead, so remember the relationship. IRAM_A. TTR controls critical executable code. DRAM_ATTR controls critical data. They are especially useful together when designing interrupt handlers that must remain safe during flash cache disabled situations. The goal is not maximum RAM usage. The goal is predictable and reliable execution. Now let's look at some common memory mistakes developers make when creating ESP32 interrupt handlers. The first mistake is placing an ISR in normal flash code when the interrupt is expected to remain operational during flash operations. The solution is to use IRAM_ATTR when the specific interrupt and application require cache-safe execution. The second mistake is more subtle. The ISR itself may correctly live in IRAM, but it accesses constants, strings, tables, or functions that still reside in flash. In that case, the ISR is not truly cache-independent. Critical data may need to be moved into internal DRAM, sometimes using DRAM_ATTR. Another common mistake is performing too much work inside the interrupt. Functions such as print, complex calculations, memory allocation, file access, networking operations, and long processing chains generally do not belong inside an ISR. Instead, keep the handler minimal. For example, an interrupt occurs, the ISR sets a flag or sends an event using an ISR safe FreeRTOS API, and then a normal task performs the heavy processing. Another mistake is forcing too many normal functions into IRAM. This wastes limited internal memory and can eventually create linker or memory pressure problems. Finally, developers sometimes place huge buffers in internal DRAM even when the system has external PSRAM available. That reduces memory available for tasks, networking, and system components. A good design therefore keeps critical ISR code small, keeps required interrupt data in accessible internal memory, and moves large non-critical workloads outside the ISR, and often into PSRAM. Now let's introduce external PSRAM. PSRAM stands for pseudo-static RAM. It provides additional volatile memory outside the ESP32 chip, and is extremely useful when your application requires more memory than the internal SRAM can provide. Depending on the ESP32 device and module, PSRAM may use different interfaces. Traditional ESP32 modules often use quad, SPI PSRAM, which transfers multiple bits per clock and commonly operates around tens of megahertz, often up to approximately 80 megahertz depending on the device. Newer ESP32 variants, especially some ESP32-S3 configurations, can support Octal PSRAM. Octal interfaces transfer more bits per clock and can provide significantly greater bandwidth. However, we should not compare PSRAM only by clock frequency. External PSRAM still has higher latency than internal DRAM because the processor must communicate with an external memory device through the memory interface and cache system. So PSRAM gives us capacity rather than the absolute lowest latency. It is excellent for camera frame buffers, graphics, large audio buffers, web server data, large JSON objects, machine learning tensors, and other memory-heavy applications. But very timing-sensitive variables, interrupt data, and critical low-latency buffers are usually better kept in internal RAM. The exact supported PSRAM type and frequency also depend on your ESP32 family, module design, ESP-IDF configuration, and hardware routing. So the key concept is simple. PSRAM dramatically increases available memory, but internal SRAM remains the preferred choice for critical real-time operations. Finally, let's see how we actually use PSRAM in a real ESP32 project. The first step is hardware. Your ESP32 module or board must physically include supported PSRAM, or your custom hardware must connect a compatible device correctly. The second step is enabling PSRAM support in the ESP-IDF project configuration. During startup, ESP-IDF can detect and initialize the external RAM. Once PSRAM is available, we can begin using it for large allocations. A common method in ESP-IDF is heap_caps_malloc. For example, we can allocate a large frame buffer using the malloc_cap_SPIRAM capability. This explicitly asks the heap allocator to place the memory in external PSRAM. This technique is ideal for camera frames, image processing, audio storage, large temporary arrays, machine learning tensors, or large web and JSON buffers. However, we should not blindly move everything to PSRAM. Interrupt-related data, small high-frequency buffers, task-critical structures, and latency-sensitive objects are often better kept in internal DRAM. Also remember that DMA compatibility and other memory capabilities can vary depending on the ESP32 variant and ESP-IDF configuration. So always check the memory requirements of the peripheral you are using. The practical architecture is therefore straightforward. Keep critical executable code in IRAM. Keep normal fast runtime data in DRAM. Keep firmware and persistent information in flash. And use PSRAM when you need significantly more temporary memory. Once you understand this division, ESP32 memory management becomes much easier to design, debug, and optimize. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Please share, like, and comment below. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos.